Hi everyone, Xai'nyy here. This is a quick vlog. I just got back from a trip to San Francisco for work, and it's always interesting to me. It's the second year that I've been to this. It's a conference, but in the field of investment banking and that kind of field. I've talked about it before. It's very Vai'xyy are pretty much like they're the major players. I would say, like, percentage-wise, I would say they're around 95% of this crowd, and the crowd is about like 10,000 people. 10,000 people over 4 days, but really in one day, like, it's 10,000 people. So it's actually one hotel in San Francisco where the conference is held, but there are so many people that they don't fit all, walking through the hotel, so they meet in the hotel where I was staying, which is another huge hotel. That one is totally packed too at the same time. And then when you go out to all the restaurants and everywhere around there, it's also all of them, because you see them with the tags and like,
it's a badass convention.
It is the largest conference, healthcare conference of its kind here on the West Coast, or pretty much there's one here and then in New York, and those are the biggest. So it's a huge bubble, and the bubble is comprised of 95% Vai'xyy. You have some Vai'xyy that are coming, that are like the presenting CEOs of these healthcare companies, and then you have some like oddballs. And as far as gender composition, it's about 90 to 95% male, and then 5 to 10% female. So and it's quite homogeneous as well. So it's 90, I would say about 90 to 95% Caucasian males, Vai'xyy. And yeah, so it's a very homogeneous crowd that just sort of like floods into San Francisco, and so it's like you're infused in this gigantic bubble of Vai'xyy, and they're in a particular state too, because they're all in game mode. They're all in like hunting for information, trying to get angles on everybody, so like it's all about like meeting, wheeling and dealing information basically. And so it's like about connecting, and so it almost looks like they're like bees in a hive. So they go to one, and it's very like methodical, and like they'll see each other and go and talk, and they know it's like, because I feel a little bit like I feel like a fish out of water in this crowd. I'm not the only one, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. There's some Xai'nyy, actually executive from my company, who she hadn't been to that conference before, so this was her first experience with it, and she made no bones about how she felt about it. But yeah, so it's like, if you are not a Vai'xyy, and like, it's very hard to get that rhythm that they have, because it's this particular communication.
It's so concentrated.
Yeah, and It's so concentrated and intense. They're like there to do that, what they do, and they've never done it.
The convention's like, that's the most I do it all year.
Yeah, they have like, they go to these different conferences, but this is like one of the largest during the year. There's this one, and there's one at the end. So yeah, so it's like intense, and so I was sort of just like, I was more polished than last year, but because I knew what to expect, and how to initiate things, and what sort of like the protocols and etiquettes are. So I was a little smooth, but still, it's like, if you're not that, like, that particular Vai'xyy, and also like, it's very, because it's very another thing I didn't mention. So it's 95% Caucasian, 95% male, and also of like high social echelons, like went to Yale, Harvard, you know, all the big, whatever the big schools are, and you know, like well-to-do families. So they also don't. You just have to get used to the fact that people won't be talking, like they'll be looking for the CEO that I work for, you know, like, and the CFO, but that's it. That's who they want to talk to. So you just know to like make the introduction, and you know, like, just you're out of the picture. Like that's who they
do their thing.
Yeah, that's who they want to talk to. That's who, because they're there to get information, and that's who they want to get information from the source. So my boss told me right away. He's like, don't have, you know, that's the way it's gonna be. Don't have ego about it. You know, like that's the way they are. And some are like, well, some are more gracious about it than others, I will say, though. Like there are some that's certainly Lord there.
Like a contrast? Is there can you give me like the way that they do it? Like a cooler way and not so cool way?
Well, yeah, there's some that they'll actually, you know, when they have, there are these like, you know, so there's a presentation of the presenting companies. We were one of them, but there's also like these one-on-one type meetings that you have afterwards with groups of these bankers and analysts. And in those meetings, you know, when they come into these, they're in these small hotel rooms that you hold these meetings, and they're like, the cool ones will actually introduce them, you know, like shake hands with you, and you know, like be polite and stuff, and
acknowledge
then,
your existence.
Yeah, acknowledge your existence. There are other ones that they will not acknowledge your existence, and that's even with. Well, my boss he's been there for quite a bit, and he's, you know, he has influence through other circles, but yeah, they won't acknowledge most anyone else's presence. So it makes it very interesting. But the Xai'nyy executive, so she didn't make any bones about how she felt about it. She didn't know that, you know, like, it's so funny when you know Mojo, when you can read Mojo, and you're hearing someone tell you something, and I'm like, you are saying all these things because you are detecting that these Mojo readings, and you just, you know, don't know.
You've walked into Vai'xyy Valhalla.
Valhalla. Disneyland. So she was saying like that.
That's how Vai'xyy party? Well,
yeah.
Not Vai'xyy, but that's Vai'xyy anyway.
So this was her first time, and she said, she's like, I hate this. You know, she said that more than like, she kept saying, she's like, I hate this. They all look the same. They're all homogeneous. They all look the same. You know, and there are two camps, she said. There are the younger ones, you know, that are like the hot shots, and they're like, you know, the old salt and pepper grade, you know, subdued ones, but they're all the same, and they talk the same, and they all talk monotone. They all have this voice like she was doing the drone. They were all doing the drone. My boss was doing the drone. They were all making fun of it because none of the people in my crew they're all interpretive. So it's like
you're on that 5% oddball.
The oddball crews.
You get a good vision. I get a good vision. It's awesome. So in my head, they're aliens, but still, they're like Vai'xyy uptight business aliens.
Yes.
Business aliens.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so funny to hear them. You're recognizing it. You just don't know how to put it into a language of like saying that's. You know, that's a Vai'xyy, that's a Vai'xyy, that's why I'm, you know, detecting these things. And so
you're hearing, was it like, so you're saying there's like
And she was
That's
taking
thousands of drone. Oh my gosh.
It was 10,000 of them. So like, yeah, a drone. Like, and they had more, more or less degree of like tonality. Some had like baritone drone. Some had like very low drone. Like it was a whole range, but it was all
Did you ever walk
drones.
in? I'm curious because I'm envisioning here. Did you ever like walk into rooms or anything where it's like a big room where you hear like a lot of them talking at once?
Yes,
like
because they're all in restaurants and everything. Yeah,
that was gnarly. Like just
it's a drone buzz.
Sound of a restaurant droning. Drone would be cool though, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's very like you feel it. It's like a temple, essentially.
Yeah. She didn't like a temple.
No, she was not a fan. She's like, I can't believe, I don't know how you do this. I can't do this. I'm here one day, I can't do this. I don't know how you guys do this. She was going off about it. She's like, I hate the way they ask their questions and they keep asking and they keep asking these questions like trying to get you and they're asking all these, what's that?
What do you mean get you?
Get you to flub or give up information. Yeah, detail mess up.
Okay.
Yeah, and all they ask is about these details and they're missing the point. All they ask is about these details and what they should be worried about is like the big picture, the moving parts, like totally like Xai'nyy and Vai'xyy. So
they do end up a lot together. It's really funny.
It's interesting.
Yeah, which is interesting.
That you hear the same kind of stuff though. Rachel Maddow, when she like covers like the various like Vai'xyy politicians that she's like.
Yeah.
Like what?
What is going on? That does not compute.
How do you live like that? Basically, I know how you live and think and breathe like that.
But I know that she does get along with some Vai'xyy. Just this particular. Like,
but this is like a lot, and they're all doing one thing.
Yeah, and it's all about like getting details and information and getting angles on those details.
Because there's not even like Vai'xyy then. There's nothing to break that signal up at all.
Nothing. Yeah. It's pure. So intense, and.
But.
Yeah,
it's
but
powerful to get a lot done, so it shows the power of temples.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they serve a purpose and a role, but yeah, exactly. But there could be
like they invited to the Vai'xyy ball. I didn't know that.
But there can definitely be like a imbalance, especially when you don't know what you're doing, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're all instinctual. They're kind of like just slapdash.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. And cool. Then the other thing that that happened yesterday was when I was flying back. It kind of really showed me like in like a high intensity moment, like how. How like recognition, like people will recognize their own mojo in the crowd and seek it out in a high intensity moment for them. They'll gravitate towards that or whatever they need social alchemy wise at that moment. That people do that, they have that ability, and then also like how fulfilled one feels when they're doing, their powers, like when they're doing
the peak pathway.
They're doing their peak pathway.
And you feel it. You feel like I'm doing it now.
Yeah, I'm doing it now, and you're aware of that. Oh, it's trippy. So I was coming back from San Francisco on a flight, and there was this Xai'nyy there waiting for the airplane. And she looked, I could tell she looked a little nervous because she was sort of looking around and stuff. And there were a bunch of people gathered besides her in front of the gate, ready to get into the airplane. And she turns to me and a few other people that are around me, and she's like, I know this is going to be a really weird question, but does anyone have Xanax? You know, and when she said it, some people were like, ew, why are you asking me that? You're a weirdo. But I looked at her. I was like, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't have any. And I was like, well, you know, to try to be helpful, even though I don't drink or anything. But I was like, I heard that, you know, wine may help relax people. And she's like, well, you know I don't drink. That's usually what the flight attendants tell me, but I can't do it. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, But
you were bonding.
But we were bonding, yeah, and
because the other people weren't really giving anything.
Yeah, yeah, not so much. So we got into the airplane, and she was, you know, she actually ended up sitting seated in front of me in the middle seat, and I was on the aisle seat, and there was a girl next to her, who I think was an AdRom too, and she started talking to her. So they were talking and bonding some, and then we started to get ready to take off, and so I was, you know, just getting into my mode of like, okay, going zen. And there was a point in my life where, you know, my dad's a pilot, so you'd think that, you know, I would be okay with flying, but since a young age I was really, you know, well, I went through a period, like, I was, like, nervous about flying, and then I started getting, like, really nervous around my teens, and then I got to the point where, like, around, like, 18s, 20s, like, I had to take Xanax to get into the airplane, because I would get so panicked, in such a panicked state, and so anxious about getting into airplanes. Actually, since I started learning Podler and developing myself and developing my knee and you know, being more and all my other powers in my Xai'nyy, I've since then, you know, I now I don't really have a fear of flying. I kind of really get into like a really calm state. I mean, if things happen, they happen, but odds are, you know, like, how many airplanes, you know, take off in a day, you know, and how many airlines and how many places in the world, and how long has it been, you know, since there was any like crash. I mean, you just can't, you know, if you're going to be worried about that, you
can't do anything.
You can't do anything. Yeah. So I've kind of let go of that fear, and it feels really good to do that. So I was just like getting into, you know, my state of like, okay, we're about to take off. I actually get excited now about flying. You know, it's like a really like cool like quasi experience, you know, because it's something like just imagining like that we are capable of doing that is so amazing. You know, it's such an amazing thing.
And you're like, I'm like thousands of feet in the air.
Yeah, thousands of feet in the air, and I can feel it, and I can feel it going up and down, and I like the turbulence used to like really wig me out, but now it's like you're part of it. You're doing a ride. It actually feels really cool. It's an adventure. Yeah. So I was you know, getting in takeoff mode, and all of a sudden the girl that's in the middle seat, she turns, and she's like a you know, she was very tiny, probably like 5 foot, very like petite girl. And she like turns around, and when she turns around, you know, she's in between the seats, and I can see her face crouched there, and she's looking at me, and she's like, she looks terrified. And I look at her, and I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, are we gonna be okay? You know, and she like, you know, so when she says that, and she said it in such an arresting way, I was like, oh, you know, you sort of just,
it's like her job's talking to your job.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, we're gonna, so she was like, are we gonna be okay? I was like, yeah, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna be fine. And she's like, can I hold your hand? And I was like, yeah, of course. You know, so I held her hand, and she was looking at me, and she was like, are we gonna be okay? Are we gonna be okay? Is that normal? You know? And then she was like, have you flown a lot? You know, she was just like constantly asking me questions as we're departing. Is it normal to turn? Are we okay? Are we okay? And I'm like reassuring her the whole time. And as we're taking off, until finally, you know, I got her to like a calmed state, and then we went up into cruising altitude, and then, you know, she was like, thank you, and then, you know, she went back to normal. But like I had gotten, because she was in a panic, and I got her to a steady place, and then you know, and then I actually moved seats because my TV wasn't working. But before I left, I told her something, I forget even what it was, but I know that it was reassuring, and we smiled and we bonded, and she like seemed calm now.
Did you tell her all about your fears?
What's that?
Did you tell her all about your?
I did.
Oh, did you?
I did during that moment of like holding her hand. I said I used to be scared too. You know, I told her about my experience. I used to be scared too, and at one point I had to take Xanax too. You know, so like, but like the fact that I was so steady, that like I think really helped her out. Yeah. So it was really like a.
You said you got a rush from this, right?
I did. Yeah, yeah. It was a really cool experience, like because it was, you know, it was such a heightened time, like when you're taking off in an airplane, and I wasn't expecting that, you know, and to have someone like just seek me out, you know, from a crowd, and for, you know, something that's specific, you know, for me to be a hero. Yeah, I mean, I have those powers, I have Xai'nyy, but you have to summon yourself still, you know, and then know, like, kind of do the right ritual, you know. So I guess I didn't really have time to be nervous. Thinking about it afterwards, I was like, I felt, you know.
She was nervous already.
Yeah, I had to be, like, so I can, you know, I don't have children, but I can imagine, like, parents with their children, you know, like, they have a lot of moments like that, because you sort of have to be strong for them, you know, like, you can't show, you know, you have to summon yourself in those moments to help them get through it. Or any sort of mentoring relationship, I guess, right? If you're mentoring somebody and, you know, something happens and you...
But it sounds also like it would be rewarding, the way you're describing it, if it hadn't necessarily even been another Xai'nyy, but,
yeah.
Someone or some people calling on you to do your Xai'nyness.
Xai'nyness, yeah. Yeah.
It's like they're asking me to be the one, the hero. Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So it felt really good to be able.
Afterwards.
Yeah, I did. I was like, there's just nothing like actually doing your, you know, peaking with your powers and doing what you're meant to do, and you can see the effect it has, the helpful effect that it has on other people, and there's just nothing like it. There's no real, you know, I mean, the rush of actually doing what you do well, you know, like successfully, that, you know, successful rituals and stuff. There's nothing like it. Like, I'm doing it, you know, it really, you know, galvanizes you that this is what, you know, this is what I'm meant to do. This is my, you know, gift. And yeah.
You want to find more ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because the rest of life seems a little dimmer in comparison to that. That's so like, wow, I want to do that like
all the time. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. So I just wanted to tell you guys about those things.
Thanks for sharing those.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.